Years ago, when I lived in Denver, I used to tithe. It wasn't much, and I was barely earning anything at the time, but I still thought it was something. But then life started to happen. Debts and student loans began to pile up, and it started to get away from me. I moved to North Carolina in 2017, but shortly after arriving here and buying a house, the woman I was married to at the time unexpectedly left me. I went through a really hard time after that. I was in a new state, had no family here, no friends. I didn't know where I was going to move, didn't know if I was going to be making enough money to be living on my own. But thankfully, throughout that time, I leaned into my faith even more, and God began to provide for me in a lot of amazing ways. I got involved here at Point Church, got involved in a small group. I ended up leading my own Bible study for a while at my workplace for my coworkers. And I began to develop a lot of new and meaningful friendships with people that poured into my life when I really needed it. Later that summer, at one of our worship events, I had a conversation with a friend from my life group at the time. The concept of tithing came up, and I admitted to him that I hadn't given in a few years now. With student loans and debts, and then going through the divorce and not yet knowing where I was going to live or move, or if I'd be able to afford to live on my own, giving hadn't even been on my mind at all. And that's when this friend told me what he had done was he started small with 1% one month. And a month or two later, he would up it to 2%, then 3%, and so on until he eventually got up to 10%. And that the whole time, God still provided enough for him and his family. So I asked myself, if I've been trusting God to get me through all of this so far, that means I should trust him with everything, including my finances. So I started that the next month and gave 1%. The next month after that, I gave 2%, and then 3%. But by the third or fourth month, Pastor Matthew was giving a sermon on giving at Point Church Apex, and I remember him saying something like, "I challenge any of you to just trust God and give 10%. And I'm so confident that God will bless you or sustain you that if for some reason you are not able to get by after giving your 10%, the church will literally reimburse your money back to you." So I said, "God, I hear you. I'm going to choose to trust you even more," and I just went ahead from 3% to 10% that month. Even though I didn't know if I'd have enough when I first began, I trusted God. I said, "God, I'm going through all this stuff. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if I'll be making enough money. I don't know where I'm going to live, but I'm still choosing to trust you." And at the same time I made that decision to start giving again, my company offered me a job promotion. A few months later, I found a new place to live closer to work that I could now afford thanks to the job promotion. I continued to heal and move on from all of the hurt I was going through. I continued to learn to lean on him for everything and through everything. I trusted that God would always provide a way, and he has. As a Christian, I believe that my money is actually God's money, and that God can do more with that money than I ever could. And if God's math can turn a few loaves and fish into enough to feed thousands of people, then I trust that he can do the same for me. And I believe that he'll continue to bless that trust and faithfulness in his timing, both in this life and the next.